All right. So it is good to see you all. Welcome aboard. I do know that other folks will be coming in a little bit late. That's fine. We'll let them in as we go. And just keep introducing yourself in the chat, name, college, role, and we'll keep building that community so we can kind of see who's in the room, who the tutors are, who the SIs are, who the faculty are, who the staff are, all the different colleges that are represented. It is a beautiful thing. Oh, and Miad is also Nicole. All right, that's not confusing, Nicole. Welcome aboard. Hello. So today we are going to talk a little bit about a strategy, a specific strategy. So today's going to be a demo. It's going to be very active, very hands-on. We're going to do a strategy called a think aloud and paired problem solving. Today will be a lot of group work. So if you can't do group work today, let us know in the chat so we don't put you in a room. We're going to try to keep we're going to have 3 breakouts today. So it's going to be very, very breakout heavy. So I just want you to know in advance, we'll try to keep the breakout rooms as similar as possible. So you're working with the same people. Hey, Ani. And we'll see how that goes. So welcome aboard. Next slide. I am Crystal Kiekel. I am the director of the Center for Academic Success at Pierce College. I'm also a coordinator for the California Community Colleges Success Network. That's 3CSN. And that is a statewide chancellor's initiative that provides all this cool professional learning for tutors, SI, faculty, staff across California. So we can start thinking about how to create these more student-centered programs and services. And they host this amazing party that we throw every Friday at 3 o'clock. We also have Valeria. Valeria, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Valeria and I'm an English tutor and the English tutor leader at Pierce College.
Yes. And Valeria will be carrying most of the day today. I'm mostly in a support role, so you'll be hearing plenty from her. So also I just want to give a shout out to Rosanna Samian from Chaffey College. We completely stole this from her and adapted it to our own purposes. This is not ours. We do not think of it. This is totally Roseanne. She just got too busy and couldn't do these anymore, but this is all her. And again, for those of you who came in just a little bit later, I just want to make sure that you know that we're going to be working from 3 to 4 p.m. today on demonstrating a think aloud and paired problem solving. It is going to be a lot of group work. So if you can't be in a group, let me know and we'll warn you before we go into the groups. But do tell me in the chat so I don't put you in a breakout room. If you want to stay past 4 o'clock, we will have an after party disco. So from 4 to 4:30, we'll actually show you videos of what this method looks like in action, and then we'll have more of an open discussion about, what strategies you use and how it works and what questions you have about how you can use this in different contexts. So we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive from 4 to 4:30. Next. So you notice that you're all muted, but that doesn't mean we don't want you to participate. And again, today is all about that participation. It is a think aloud and paired problem solving. So we're going to be doing a lot of pairing up, a lot of working together. But if you have a question in this big group, you can type it in the chat. We love, love, love chats. So chat it up. You can ask your questions in the chat. You can also answer other people's questions in the chat. Sometimes Zoom can be a little alienating because we're all at home and our cameras are often off and we're often on mute, but that doesn't mean we're not engaged and that doesn't mean we can't engage. Use that chat to build the community even as you're sitting there, maybe even with your camera off or your mute on. Just continue sharing your strategies, answering questions and asking those questions there. Also, there are these super fun reaction buttons. We love these reaction buttons, so do feel free to let us know what we're doing well, what surprises you, because again, we can't see your faces, so this is sort of like the replacement for nonverbal communication in a classroom, so do feel free to use those with reckless abandon. You can find all of these on the reaction button at the bottom of your screen. Next slide. So today we're going to do 2 things. We're going to demonstrate what the think aloud and paired problem solving looks like. We're going to think about what it means to think aloud and why that's important and how it connects to metacognition. And then we'll dig specifically into a strategy called TAPPS. That's the think aloud paired problem solving. And we'll talk about how to apply that in a short tutoring session. And again, if you want to stay after 4 o'clock, we'll actually show it to you. We've shot a couple of videos for the tutor training on our campus, so you can hang out and maybe discuss some of that too. Next slide. So just a couple of community agreements so we know where we're going. Do get ready to participate actively. There's going to be like a handout download. You're going to be reading something. You're going to be discussing in small groups. So it's going to be really, really active. So do make sure that you're trying your best to stay present. If you can't be present or can't do the group work, we understand. We still love you. Just let us know so we don't put you in a breakout room. And then we'll tell you when it's all group work. And then you can decide if you want to stay for the discussion, or if you want to go and come back later and ask me, you can email me too. Just know that like this is going to be kind of weird potentially at first, so it might be confusing. Confusion is great. We love that. We love feeling just slightly overwhelmed. So do share your confusion, share your question in the chat, and we'll do our best to respond to it. And we're just going to be kind to each other because this is confusing and life is hard right now. So let's create a little space right here where it's okay to be confused and it's okay to be wrong. And we're just going to be super nice to each other for the next hour and a half. Next slide. So with that, I would love to turn it over to our resident expert, Valeria, who's going to walk us through metacognition, what we're going to be doing today. Take it away, Valeria.
Thank you, Crystal. All right, everybody. So to help us in our exploration of today's learning strategy, TAPPS, we want to go ahead and just go over this guiding question. So we know that the goal of peer education is to support students as they strengthen their learning processes so they become more independent learners. But how do we do that? How do we encourage students to work together to recognize, monitor, and improve their own learning process? So we're actually going to participate in a Zoom poll right now. Crystal's going to put it up in just a minute, and look through the options in there, right? So take a few minutes to complete it and see if you can find your strategy in there. And if you don't see your strategy in there, just go ahead and type it in the chat. We would love to hear about what strategies you're already using. All right, take a few minutes.
So again, here's our Zoom poll. It is up now. So what we'd like you to do is just select all the strategies you've used in the past or you're currently using to help engage students to work together, to think about their thinking. It's a multiple choice, or should be. You should be able to select a bunch of them, or you can also put it in the chat. It stopped it for me. I guess we.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Shall we share results?
Yes. Let's share the results.
All right.
All right. So it looks like the most popular strategies, if you all see there, whole group discussions and think aloud strategies.
Very nice.
Next, we have Google Docs and Google Slides as collaborative documents. Also help students monitor their own thinking in a collaborative way. Social media, think pair strategy. Yep. So are there any other ones that you didn't see on here? Go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing the Zoom poll. All right, everybody, thanks for participating in that. Now to move us along here, we are now going to engage in a read together. So in a moment, Crystal's going to put our TAPPS guide into the chat. And this TAPPS guide has our reading for today and the instructions for our activity that we will participate in later on. So go ahead and download that. But for now, we're only going to focus on the reading. So just some, I guess, how we're going to read together. We're going to take about 8 minutes to read the article beginning on page 1, which ends on page 5. And as you read through the article, we ask that you select a golden line, something that's interesting to you, something that maybe surfaces questions or that helps you make connections to how you have probably used this in a tutoring session. And yeah, are there any questions about that? I think, yeah, so now we're going to, is that in the chat, Crystal? Are there
Yeah,
any
it is
questions?
in the chat, but I don't see anybody on it, so I wonder, I put in a different link.
Okay.
So go ahead and click on the link that's in the chat, and I will
Mhm.
share my screen so you kind of see what it is, what it should look like. You should find something that looks like this. Oh, there they are. Now they're appearing. I
Okay.
tried to put it directly in the chat, but Zoom is not cooperating with me. So unfortunately, we'll have to do it this way. So I put a link in the chat. I would just really encourage you to download this. So go to File and then go to Download before you read through it, just so you can see the formatting correctly and so that you don't accidentally mess this up for somebody else. So yeah, just take a moment to download this. We're going to be spending our first couple of minutes on the reading, which is the first couple of pages. And I can see folks are coming in now. Does anybody have any questions, or is anybody having trouble with it? If, downloading it? If you're having trouble downloading it, let me know.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's easy to see. Okay.
Great. And if you are having trouble, let me know. I'm happy to email it to you. Sorry, we did try to upload the document directly into the chat, but it didn't work. So we're gonna have to work with Google Docs. Anybody else
Okay.
have any trouble, or does anybody else need help getting to it?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right. So before we send you off, just some agreements for reading together. So we are reading in community, but we're reading silently. Feel free to start and stop anywhere you want, pages 1 through 5, and it's totally okay not to finish. And of course, find some golden lines for yourself. And it's okay to have questions as you read through or even disagree with the author. And as you read along, also feel free to shut off your camera. And after our reading, we are going to go into breakout rooms and start engaging in some group work. So do let us know if you can't go into a breakout room. All right, any questions? No. All right, I'll go ahead and start the timer. All right, everybody, go ahead and finish up on the last line that you're on. Now we are going to go ahead and go into breakout rooms. And in these breakout rooms, we'd like for you all to introduce yourselves. What's your name? What college are you from? And what's your role? And then also discuss what you got from the article. Discuss the golden line that you selected and think about how you would explain this concept to a student. And then also share the strategies that you already use. Are there any questions before we go into breakout rooms?
All right, so I have breakout rooms of mostly 3s. Somebody may join you or switch out, but for the most part, we'll stay there. And we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Is that right, Valeria?
Yes.
Okay, we'll see you in 10 minutes. Away we go. Welcome back, everybody. Hi. So I hope I got a little bit of a sampling of some of the good thoughts that were exchanged. I hope some other great thoughts were exchanged also. You're going to go back into those same teams in a few minutes. So if you had something that you didn't get to say, you'll have another opportunity to say it. But this time when we go back in, we're going to have a directed activity. We're actually going to try the Think Aloud paired problem solving method. So Valeria, show us what we're going to do next. Show us what we won, Valeria.
So after we read the article, here it is in a nutshell what Think Aloud and paired problem solving, why we would do it and how we would do it, right? So
Valeria, I'm so sorry, but could you go into presentation mode? You're still
yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
There we go. Now we see it a lot bigger. Thanks. All right. So why do we do TAPPS? So one, it surfaces and promotes good learning strategies, right? The problem solver is thinking aloud and posing questions as they work through their problem solving task. It promotes independent learning in student pairs and builds communication and metacognition as they monitor their thoughts and so on. And how does it do that? Well, one student thinks aloud, they're the problem solver, and another student listens and notices the learning strategies that the problem solver is using. And then they switch roles, and then they engage in crosstalk to solve the problem together. So we are actually going to try this together next, again, in your breakout rooms. So referring back to our TAPPS guide, I'm actually going to go ahead and pull it up right now so that we can look over it together. Let me get out of here and share this. There it is. And okay, so here's our TAPPS guide. We read the article, and now we are going to go over the instructions for the activity, which you can find on page. Can you see my document, Crystal?
Yeah, we can see it. If you could just make it a little bit bigger, and we'll all scroll down to page 6 so we can follow along on our own. But if you can't follow along on your own and look at your screen, Valeria is going to show it on her screen too.
Yes. So here we are on page 6, and that's where you'll find the instructions. So we're going to get into pairs or groups of 3, like in your breakout rooms. And as soon as you go into your breakout rooms, you're going to decide who the first problem solver is and then who will be the listeners. We might only have time for 1 round, but typically this is done in 2 rounds. So we're going to demonstrate this in a little bit. After that, you are going to select what problems you are going to work with, which I'll show in a minute as well. So if you're the problem solver, you are going to think aloud or talk through the problem for 2 minutes. Keep talking for those 2 minutes. Anything that surfaces, questions, noticings, etc. Meanwhile, the listener is noticing what the problem solver is doing, what they're thinking, the strategies that they're using, and they are taking notes on those strategies. The listener can also ask the problem solver questions as they are problem solving. And afterwards, the listener will have 1 minute to share their noticings and their observations. And then you can engage in crosstalk. Right, so that's where the instructions are, page 6. Let me scroll down here. On page 7, you'll find the roll cards for that. So the problem solver, once again, is thinking through for 2 minutes out loud. And then the listener is observing and afterwards sharing the strategies that the problem solver used. Down on page 8 and 9 is where you'll find the text that you can choose to work with as you problem solve. Here is the text. Or you can also choose a math problem on page 9 to work with. Right, are there any questions?
We will model it for you too.
Yes. Are there any questions after sort of like viewing that? Okay, let me go ahead and share our presentation again.
All right, we're going to do a little baby shortened version of the model. We won't do the full 5 minutes, but normally this would take about 5 minutes for a round. So one person's problem solves for 2 minutes and then each person gives a little bit of feedback. But we're going to do a little baby version for you.
Yes, okay. All right, Crystal, you ready to model this?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right, so I'll be the problem solver.
I'm listening.
All right, all right. All right, is Google making us stupid? Immersing myself in a book or a lengthy article used to be easy. Now my concentration often starts to drift after 2 or 3 pages. I can totally relate to that, and it reminds me of this article that I once read that mentioned that our attention span is getting a lot shorter. I get fidgety, lose the thread, begin looking for something else to do. I feel as if I'm always dragging my wayward brain back to the text. Yeah, this also reminds me of like the social media app TikTok, where you can just like scroll through so many videos because they're so short. So I wonder if that's contributing to our shorter attention span.
All right, and then stop there. Great, so that was about 38 seconds, good job. Okay, so now as the listener, I'm gonna reflect back what I saw Valeria do. All right, so here I go. Okay, so Valeria, I just think you did a great job with this. You have a way with words. I saw that you started with the title right? And then you started to read it, but then you stopped, right? And then you thought to yourself, like, what does this mean for me, right? I saw you make connections with what you know personally and what you know academically to really create more meaning. So I really think you did a wonderful job with this. I did notice that you didn't look at the picture. You know, it's one of the strategies that I use is looking at pictures. And so maybe when we have time for a crosstalk, we can talk about the role of pictures in texts like this. And
Yeah, definitely. All right, everybody. So that's what you will do in your breakout rooms. You will have a lot longer to sort of think through that. So again, the problem solver is thinking aloud for 2 minutes. Listener is observing and noticing. And then the listener sort of shares the strategies that the problem solver used, and then they can discuss it. Is there anything else?
any questions?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to open up the rooms. We'll see you back here in 7 minutes. So that's 5 minutes for the round and then a couple of minutes to read through and get started. So see you soon. Wow.
All right, everybody. So welcome back. We'd love to hear how that experience went for you. So if you were a problem solver, how did it feel to be on the spot? How did it feel to slow down your thinking in that way? And if you were a listener, how did it feel to listen to someone else's thinking or to take the time to notice someone else's thoughts? So again, you can raise your hand or you can type it in the chat. We'd love to hear.
And I promised I made it so everybody can unmute themselves now. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry. Oh, you're on mute. Let me see. Ask to unmute. Try now.
Good. Okay. Yeah, it wouldn't let me unmute a second ago.
Gosh, I don't know what's wrong with those settings today. My apologies.
No, that's okay. I mean, you know, we're all dealt Zoom. I was the problem solver and chose project number 1. And when I first looked at it, I had a reaction, as I was telling my group, is that I'm a visual learner. There was no pictures there. So instantly my mind went to, oh, this is going to require some real focused time. So I started feeling a little tiny sense of panic, like, oh, I'm going to have to put in all this energy to focus. But then I decided as I was reading it, what I need to visualize, such as the DAO, the TAO, is going to Google Images and downloading images that relate to it. And then creating a folder on my computer. Oh, thank you for the hand clap. Creating a folder on my computer with pictures that relate to it. And as I'm taking notes, it's 2 columns. One half, the first half of the columns is my notes, and the second half of the columns are questions for the tutor or the professor. And if I go see the professor or the tutor, I'll have my laptop with me so I can, you know, show them what I don't understand highlighted in the essay, and also what pictures I found that relate to it.
Wow, I love it. That's beautiful. And what an amazing opportunity for a Think Aloud, because you demonstrated, right, that reading a text doesn't mean you have to just stick with the text, right? There are all these other modalities that you can pull in. I love that. Michael is so wonderful. And I think one of the awesome ways that you can do this is as a tutor or as a faculty member, you can do it first, right? So like you could do it either way. You could do it so the student shows you their thinking, or you can show the student how you would approach a problem. So you can model some of that stuff too, so they can understand, they can see like an expert problem solve and use Google and do all that stuff. Just amazing. All right, so I see in the chat, Heather says that they were attempted to give the answers or help them along. It is hard to listen, right? Without being like, oh, I gotta fix it. Thank you for surfacing that. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Firas.
Hello. Thank you for put me in an amazing group, and they helped me really. They pushed me hard to do good job today. So I just want to share something. So the first time I wanted to solve the problem, but the problem I don't understand the already problem. So I go through the sentence. I read the sentence number one. So the top. So even I don't know the name. So they mention, oh, but probably maybe the name because of capital letter. Then I get, so I know the dot and can be, but I try to find like three vocabularies there. Some of them a little bit closer to me, and some of them is really far.
Uh-huh.
So I try to solve the problem, like because we have to do it like super fast. So I try to find the problem, but I find myself, I'm in the problem. So I can solve the problem even if I'm still in the problem. But the good things, I find the name down there, name. So I mean, the top is the name. And thank you for my group because they explain who's the name. It's about, it's a word about something old, and that's one I want to share. Sometimes we cannot really fix a problem
That's right.
because we not really understand the
That's right.
situation or the problem. So maybe we get the problem to another student because we're not ready for it.
That's right. That's beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, thank you. So well said. I think that it's so key to surface getting stuck also. And also, it sounds like you surfaced some of the feelings, some of the frustration that goes along with getting stuck, not being able to move forward. And that's a great thing to hear your students surface, right? So you know when they're getting frustrated because you know when they're about to give up and you can help work through that. But also, again, if you're going the other way, if you're the educator modeling it for a student, you can show the student how normal it is to feel frustrated and to get stuck and to not be able to move forward, right? It's such a beautiful thing to help normalize for the student and also to model for yourself. So I hate to say this, but I'm so glad you got stuck. Beautiful. And then Manuela in the chat says that they were a listener for Michael. It was really nice to watch somebody else break down that problem. And it also made them feel like they had a connection with the problem solver because it felt like they could use the strategies since they're also a similar kind of learner, a visual learner. So beautiful. Thank you. All right, so this brings us to the end of our first portion, the 1 hour portion. We still do have an after party. So could you go to the next slide, Valeria? So if you need to go, we understand it's Friday, it's 4 o'clock, you probably have something else to do. But if you want to hang out and continue to talk about this stuff, we're going to hang out until 4:30. We've got some videos that show what this might actually look like in an online tutoring session. And we want to hear about some of the strategies that you surfaced in the Zoom poll, but also in your breakouts, because you got to say it amongst your groups, or maybe you didn't get to say it amongst your groups. Maybe you'd like to share it, and we would love, love, love to hear it. So yes, you can hang out for the after party. If you're a CAS tutor and you'd like to stay for the after party, you can get paid. Thanks for asking that. But if you need to go, we completely understand. Next slide. If you do have to go, we'll just ask you to check out the evaluation link that Jan just put in the chat. Click on that, give us a little bit of feedback. It really helps us create better strategies, better workshops. We really have built a lot of these workshops based on that feedback. So please, please, please do give us that feedback. It's also really important for our funding, and it's important to keep all this cool stuff free, cool and free, right? Two of my favorite things. If you need to go, come back next week. We have somebody from Pasadena City College, a peer educator from Pasadena City College, has been working hard on a presentation on self-care just in time for finals. So she's going to come in and talk about what self-care means for us and how we can help our students through that process as well, and brainstorm some activities, brainstorm ideas and walk us through some activities on what self-care means for us in this really difficult time, particularly as we move into finals and everybody wants to pull out their hair. So if you have to go, come back next week. If you're gonna hang out, we'll stop the recording. We'll show some videos and we'll have a good time. Bye everybody who's leaving.